Dr. Vrilock here. Welcome. Alright, so tonight's podcast is Psionics technology, training, learning abilities, sigils, amplifying patterns, all kinds of great stuff. But we're going to talk a little bit about our favorite technocrats out there. Let's see. I always like to cap over what's going on and then look under the hood. Okay, so you've probably caught the latest news of Meta taking a dive, right? The stock plunged on Thursday, shedding almost 24.6%, and its shares settling just under $98 per share, and that's since the first time since 2016. There's a metaverse division called Reality Labs, which basically has driven Meta's losses, shedding $3.7 billion in the quarter compared to $2.6 billion lost in the year-ago quarter. And I think that's about $9.4 billion lost in 2022. And the year's not over yet, as they say. Bloomberg reported that, and I quote, Sheryl Sandberg is leaving Facebook at a perilous moment, end quote. You know, that's not new, but it's the beginning of some big changes. Sheryl Sandberg was the social media giant scaler-in-chief, and she's leaving at a time very critical to the company. Sometimes extremes can trigger huge losses, you know, and at the same time, new doors of opportunity open, particularly to us working psionics. We do work within those extremes where we can manifest miracles. You know something? I envy Mark Zuckerberg, really. A man who has all the funding in the world to bring to himself some of the greatest people, if he so wants to. You know, maybe he simply needs to clean up the lab, hire some new fresh minds, and get himself tighter knit with his board of directors. And I'm only saying. But I'd wager a few dollars that I'm not far off. I don't know. I'm not inside the company. And it's not my intention to spread any statements that might or might not be true. But I'd like to express that if I could be in his shoes right now, I'd love to be, because with the right advisory board and a great team, the biggest problems can be resolved. Even the mysteries of markets, albeit the universe itself, can be demystified with great teams and an effective leader. An established company needs a well-rounded team. And a superb CEO, sure, but tight-knit with the board of directors. Unless this is all a public show, I mean, there was also something interesting that came out. One of the articles I read from Meta actually stated neural networks can now decompress audios that are sent from device to device, like, you know, on a phone, on your phone to your friend's phone, in a low internet zone, which is a great feat, because if you've ever tried to watch like a YouTube video on your phone and then you get that rolling icon, that little wheel like that, you know how annoying it is. And it's a real test of your patience, only to find out the video doesn't load at all. So it's kind of a nice breakthrough here that neural networks can manage these things for us much better. So there's another tip of the hat in the direction of Mr. or Mrs. AI. So that's what I mean. Under the hood, what's going on really over there at Meta's lab, right? But, there's, of course, the various narratives and rumors going around that Mark has himself surrounded by the same old people, telling him the same old thing. But, building a company like Facebook or Meta is undoubtedly phenomenally intelligent, creative, and difficult. Maybe even at times downright impossible work. And to lose all of that is something I wouldn't celebrate. No, really. Even though I have no stock invested in Meta, and I do not work for them, I hate to see them go down just because of a little mistake. I think the mistake they're talking about with the board of directors is simply this: that Meta could have been investing in AI. Well, I just informed you of the article about neural networks, so they are working in that direction, obviously. And then, of course, if we're investing in virtual reality, why social networks? Why not games? Because games is where VR is, or VR is in the game sector. But that's the thing. Sometimes, we don't see the vision of the visionary. On the other hand, that's okay for someone like a genius like Albert Einstein, Nikola Tesla, up until the point that something becomes scientifically, fashionably acceptable. Yes? One never knows what the next big investment is going to bring. Be that wondrous success or failure, followed by outrageous losses. And that's the bottom line to investors and its stakeholders. The bottom line is that any investor, no matter how well informed, the extent of experience, the gift of intuition or intelligence, in the end, he or she or they is making a very big guess by investing in any company, be it great or small. But you need the great people, great talent. As my chairman at VPM, Mr. Oleg Feldgager, has said so many times, so graciously, the blessing of social media is your ability to reach talent across the globe. Its curse is the noise that makes it difficult to separate the wheat from the chaff. End quote. In my personal experience, separating talent from the noise is easier with psionics. And it's because psionics itself is based upon the principles of dowsing. And that's a whole nother subject we can get into, and I will. Air Doctor promises you all mysteries penetrated, nothing hidden, all revealed. The simpler the decision, the better. Yes, no, very black and white. Dowsing, psionics. There's no hooty-hoo in psionics, unlike the more medieval, ritualistic, and mystical crafts. Psionics is indeed the black and white of the mystical world, rather like a game of Wakey or Ego. Yeah, Lego my ego. Most traditional and ceremonial magics, whether these are of the high or low magic sector, have this gray area, right? And that's why magic is hooty-hoo. You know, you can't be scientific with this stuff. Falls over there in that side, the realm of art. But hey, listen, have you not noticed Apple and everyone else the world, the gradation between art and science, the distinguishment is thinning. That veil between the two is thinning. I've often said in my podcast in the past that there will come a time when technology is indistinguishable from magic. Most traditional and ceremonial magics, whether these are the high or low magic, do have that gray area. The law of three, appeasing the saints or gods, or who was the first one to bring the trough to the Teutonic nation states, etc., 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 the goddess and so on, the Akashic record and so on. Psionics doesn't have a gray area. Psionics controls information by emphasis, suppression, and revision. Essentially, we're speaking of enchantment, albeit as the ancients might call it, but more technical, tactical, and without any prerequisite for a study or application of arcana. Which means, in some ways, even a Christian can apply psionics without breaking faith. So the practice of psionics is, as I've said, emphasize, suppress, or alter information, albeit rewrite it. We cut straight to the chase with instant manifestation, and after all, that's what most of my clients are looking for. Aside from deep philosophy of self-worthiness, success, and personal power, and just like the game of Go, having inspired Mr. Masahiro Hara to conceptualize QR code, Vrilock psionics takes the lead in mental influence and manifestation far and beyond the arcane ramblings of incantations out of a medieval grimoire. And by the way, I've had a lot of fun with QR code in psionics. We'll delve into that more. You see my meta profile. I have a metaverse profile where I have these QR codes that allow you to see some of my egregores and different fun magic arrangements on your smartphone's camera. And that's been out since, over a year ago. And we're hoping to do some new things with that eventually in the future. Alright, Psionicus, technomancers, whatever you want to call yourself. We're operators of mind power, mental influence, and mind-to-machine manifestation, which is kind of fun. It fits the times of the techno-psionic Digerati, the technocrats of the future, and of course, the season. Happy Halloween, everyone. No, Air Doctor didn't forget. Well, I might talk a little about generative AI in upcoming podcasts, and that's important to mention briefly here because in a world gone full automatum, with AI generating everything from novels to new Picassos, even creating entire new spiritual beliefs, albeit perhaps even dismantling old religions, you're going to have only psionics as your secret thing that AI doesn't have a clue. Well, it'll have a clue, but it doesn't have it in and of itself. But you'll be able to work with AI, albeit remotely and detached from your personal life, by using psionics training. Well, which brings me to my favorite ongoing topic, and I talk about this a lot, amplifiers and sigils. And we're always merging some of the old concepts of magic, or even the new ones of chaos magic, into psionics, and working with sigils and amplifiers. Whether these are for personal life situations, or they're for learning abilities, or pursuing various ventures to profitability, we enjoy them very much. Sigils are amazing. Back when I was working with sigils for intelligence, particularly with Fornius, Astaroth, and a few others from the Lesser Key of Solomon, I was pursuing language learning in the very early years of college. And what I experienced was wondrous insights into various languages. It was as if I could read in between the lines in the textbooks while under the influence of sigils. And when listening to other people talk, I would pick up or pick out subtle cues which told me a lot more about the language than strictly practicing from a textbook or a workbook. The former are indispensable. You need your textbooks and workbooks, but more importantly is people. And watching films or reading comics written in another language can help tremendously. Now, the experiences that I've had with sigils do go beyond mere subtle hints. We can have very spectacular experiences. For instance, when I lie down in the earth position, I go into a calm state of mind, into a trance. And when I'm there, untapped faculties begin to open to me. And a conjecture that the metaphorical absent-minded professor or the stupidious genius is really just an individual who's detached to some degree on one of the finer levels of the the etheric energy field, being detached from the physical body and the brain. To some degree, it's sort of like what we're talking about is a slight out-of-body condition. And in this state of being, in this position of slight out-of-body, permits other senses or faculties on the astral plane, the mental energy field, albeit the nether world, to open to the individual's awareness. And so for me, I'll experience a flash or a streak of light, a cloud of shadows over my third eye or brow center, on my mind's inner screen. And I can distinctly feel that this is coming from elsewhere. I'll experience this before falling deeper into the various visions or even ventures and experiences that these disembodied minds reveal at my level of conscience. So, in a nutshell, the more detached we are, it's kind of interesting. The more detached we are, the more we experience things like omnipresence, omniscience, and with the advent of artificial brains that we can link up to, perhaps we will experience certain degrees of omnipotence, and the universe will open to us. Psionics is like, what's it like being, living within the awareness of this flimsy veil between realities, but for most people it seems so concrete. The ordinary person lives life like if you're lost in the forest, in the wilderness with nothing but your skin. Compare that to being in the woods with survival gear, a powerful GPS device synced to a drone flying overhead. Well, the latter is what psionics does for you. So it's really important to make that decision. Okay, we're wrapping up the show soon, so let's go ahead with our weekly message to Mr. Musk. We have to do that. This is too much fun. And I quote, "You really must put an end to employee birthday parties. unless there is spanking off the ears. Yeah, I did that, my bad. Our Halloween insights for today. Well, paraphrasing Apple News here, the article states, "We've pretty much stopped believing in ghosts and goblins, but we still believe in Halloween criminals." Yeah, and they're talking about unfounded fears about rainbow fentanyl become the latest Hollywood, not Hollywood, I was going to say, Halloween boogeyman. Of course, these days there's not much difference between Hollywood and Halloween, is there? Well, ghosts and goblins are real, but we have to define our terms here. We already understand ghost. Well, we think we do. But a goblin is simply the evil alignment of the former term. So it's kind of like saying there's candy and then there's really bad stuff. But be safe, and with some intuitive insight, have a happy Halloween. Wrapping up our show tonight, I wanted to let my listeners know that I did create a rather exhaustive work. Yes, a work of art, an entire video course on awesome amplifiers. And this was made for you to have considerable power in your life, and you may download that instantly. Yeah, you don't have to spend weeks and months studying grimoires. I'm going to give you that power instantly. You download it, you got it, use it. Get to work. Instantly manifest things into your life, and thereby also influence changes in the world that you'd appreciate. So I recommend the video course to anyone and everyone looking into amplifier patterns for quick results. No more lag in operations. That's Awesome Amplifiers video course only at Vrilock.com/shop. Questions, topics of interest, go to Vrilock.com and keep the magic high. This is Dr. Vrilock, signing out.